All right, cool. Well, hey, GLG, thank you all for being here. I know you had some choices. And for those of you who are watching the recording, thank you for watching this back. I am super stoked to introduce Stuart Heath, who is joining us from just down the street from KW Atlanta Partners. Stuart, thanks for being here with us and pouring
Pleasure.
into us for converting more leads through open houses. For those that don't know you, do you mind just sharing a little bit more about like your background and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, like Sam said, I'm Stuart Heath. I am the tech trainer here at Atlanta Partners. We're a large group. We're a group of official 11 Atlanta Partners offices and have other offices as well. I've been licensed for 11 years this December, which seems a really long time ago. Started off as a buyer, actually started off in real estate investing, running to the back of the room, buying all the seminars that you could buy. Met a real estate agent who said, "You make a great agent. You should come work for me one day." And a year later, I worked for him and was on his team for a few years. My wife got her license. And then a little bit in, I was looking for just a little bit of time back, start coaching my kids' soccer team. And so I became an assistant team leader of the Northeast Snellville office for 2.5 years. And then a few months ago, stepped into the role of tech trainer. Not just KW Command. We're certainly not going to be talking much about that at all, if at all, today. But just, market technology, best practices, building systems. And that's what we're going to kind of talk about today is, how do we build a system around an open house? How do we create an event around an open house that we're excited for, not just a chore that we got to go show up to do an open house because we told the seller that we're going to do that open house, kind of, a different mindset that we can take. So I love teaching. I've always loved teaching, always loved helping agents, just seeing that there's a lot of possibilities in the world of real estate. And what's really cool about real estate is you don't have to fit in a box to be successful, and you can choose to do business how you want to. Open houses are for some people, they're not for other people. Obviously, everyone's here today, so I assume that you guys are at least somewhat interested in learning more about open houses. And right now, I think there's a huge opportunity for open houses because when I go on our websites and shows different features, and we pull up the feature where we can search for open houses, I don't see that many of them. And we're kind of around Metro Atlanta here, so there should be open houses everywhere, in my opinion. And they're not, and the consumers want them and they love them. I think that a lot of people have a little bit of a negative mindset on open houses because they truly don't have a system or an event around the open house. They show up, they meet some people, pass out a few cookies, and they go home and they lose that sign-in sheet on their car seat, and that's the end of it. And then they say, "Well, I never converted anything from an open house." And so maybe I'm going to think about not doing them anymore. So hopefully today we can talk a few best practices. It's definitely an interactive class. So if you guys have some things that you want to go ahead and share as well, or some best practices, you guys should be seeing my screen now, I believe.
Yeah, looks good on mine.
Awesome. So, if we can, someone jump off mute and tell me a success that you have had, big or small, a success that you've had from an open house recently or in the past.
Hi, I'm Janelle.
Hey, Janelle.
Hey, I had one of my very first open houses last year. I met these buyers who'd been searching for a while, and they'd been to many open houses, and they came to ours, and I had strawberries, champagne, and all kinds of goodies set up, all kinds of brochures, and it led to the sale of their home, buying a home, a lead for their mother-in-law and their mother-in-law's friend.
Wow.
But I kept in touch with them consistently, always sending emails like every week. And so it was a very successful lead.
Yeah, I love that. So would you say that it was the open house that made you that money, or would you say it was more the events and the activities afterwards that ultimately made you that money?
The interaction.
Sure.
Just being engaging and asking a lot of questions. A lot of times the feedbacks I seem to get from open houses seem to be that people say agents don't really talk to them or don't really do much beyond giving them the basic info of the house. I try to get a little personal sometimes and just find a connection there. And that just seems to be really helpful.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing. We're going to be talking today, and you guys are going to leave with some scripts. Again, there's that drive link in the chat. There's a bunch of documents in there you guys can use for whatever you like. My biggest success story for an open house was an open house I didn't want to do at all. Back when I was selling with my wife, she enjoyed open houses, and there was a Falcons game on, and I really didn't want to do it. This listing we'd had for a couple of months, the owner smoked in there. It was a really steep driveway, and we were doing an open house because we almost felt like we had to, right? I had 30 something people come through that open house, and we've been on the market 6-7 weeks. How we had that many people come through, it was from some activities. There's a little bit of luck involved in it too, but there was a family that came through that ended up buying. They had some investments, and at the time they moved kind of their area of investing from one area to our area, and there was a good 8-9 transactions involved with that one family. And that was an open house that I could have very easily said, hey, does anybody want to do this open house for me? And so really love to flip your guys' mindset and just make sure we know that it is a little bit of a long game. One of my favorite words in real estate is consistency. Consistency wins. And it isn't just doing one thing one time that gets us to the finish line. It's doing, repetitive small activities that compound and add up over time. And then all of a sudden we see the results. And it's almost like we don't want to stop, because we just know that compound effect is keeping on going and going on. So we're going to talk about some systems around open houses. Jump in. I'm sure you guys have all seen this graphic before. It hangs in some of our market centers. And so I think this kind of relates to open houses, because at the end of the day, when we're hosting an open house, our goal is to go out there, meet the general public. You could kind of say this as a targeted group, because at the end of the day, we're going to have some activities around targeting neighbors, targeting visitors. But our goal is to go meet people and to bring them closer into the middle of that circle, to make them part of our network, to make them an advocate, make them a client, make them a core advocate. So always be thinking, what can I do to strengthen this relationship, to deepen this relationship? And again, we may have 5,000 people in our database. We may have 300 people in our database. There are people within our database that are more valuable to us, that we know on a deeper level, that ultimately can help our business because they want to. And we've just got to kind of show them some activities that can help us. So, the purpose of an open house, I really love to flip us from the mindset, well, I've got to do an open house because I told the seller I'm going to do an open house. Sometimes there are things that we do in our marketing of listings, or that we maybe propose in a listing agreement, knowing that, or in a listing presentation, knowing that it may or may not make a huge difference, but I'm going to go ahead and do it because it may be important to the seller. Other people may be doing them. And so, I would always tell a seller that, Mr. and Miss Seller, there's not one magic button that I can push that's ultimately going to, sell your home and make everything perfect. But there's so many small activities that myself and my team are going to do that maybe add 1-2% likelihood to us selling, and us selling for top dollar, that if we do enough of those activities, before we know it, we're doing 20-30% more than our competition, and 20-30% is a noticeable difference. So, additional marketing for the sellers. An opportunity for represented buyers. And what I mean by that is, there's a certain percentage of people that are going to come through your open house that legitimately do have an agent. Maybe their agent was busy. Maybe the home just got listed and they couldn't coordinate schedules. Don't think of that as a negative thing because you couldn't convert them. Think of it, hey, that's awesome. I was here to help my seller, to provide an opportunity for a buyer to come through the home. And there's a good chance that that buyer may be interested. They may be one of the strongest offers. So again, just be okay knowing that a certain percentage of people come through your open house and will actually have an agent. A bigger percentage of people are going to say they have an agent. And we'll talk about some systems to follow up with them afterwards, because they may just be brushing you off. Building your brand in your neighborhood. When people talk about farming, when people talk about, breaking into a specific neighborhood and gaining market share, there's things that we can do that are so powerful. It's all about adding value to those in that neighborhood, and consistent branding, consistent marketing, so they can see our name and face. So when I have a listing, I'm going to go big with it in that neighborhood. Open houses, nothing's more powerful than getting a few signs in a row inside one neighborhood, and one car drives past, oh, that's Sam's sign, that's Sam's sign. All of a sudden we just start working our way up there. Meeting obviously buyers and sellers. Personally for us, that's a big reason why people are hosting open houses. And of course, along with that comes growing our database. But every single time we do an open house, every time we do anything in business afterwards, reflect and, hey, what went great? What could have gone a little better? Do I have an opportunity to do something just a little different next time and see if that changes any results? The best example of that is going to be, how are we driving people to our open house? If we have an open house and the attendance isn't as high as we wanted it to, did we miss out on some marketing efforts that we maybe did a couple of open houses ago that drew more people in? So we're always trying to improve. I pulled a real quick stat from NAR. How did buyers find their home? And they said 7% of people found it on a yard sign and an open house sign. And so, we'll just split that right down the middle and take 3.5%. And if we say, we're going to get 10 people through my open house, and we're going to do an open house every week, we're going to take 4 weekends off. That's 480 visitors a year. Now, 10 visitors through an open house may not sound like a huge number, but there's people right now, on this Zoom, going to be watching this Zoom, that if they added 480 people to their database, they've more than doubled the size of their database. So don't, underestimate the power of meeting people individually. And if we say that we close 3.5% of those visitors that come through, that's 16.8 closings a year. When an average of $7,500 commission, that's $126,000. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for a lead generation method that doesn't take a huge expense at the end of the day. And so, I was always big on 135s, especially when I was selling, and I had several 135s. And one of my 135s was a pure lead generation 135. And I would have, obviously, my sphere of influence. I would have Facebook lead generation, because I always enjoyed Facebook ads early on. And then I had open houses. One of the main reasons open houses jumped on early for me was I didn't have a huge budget. I didn't know a ton of people when I first got into real estate. I was pretty young. I had some super successful friends that already bought homes. And then I had, a large group of my friends that, were maybe a little ways off from buying a home. And so I had to go out there and meet people. And when I was a brand new agent, there was an agent in our office called Rodrigo, and his business philosophy was open houses. He used to sit all day in a vacant home that we had listed, or our office had listed, and he put his signs out front, and he would lead generate from a vacant house, having an all-day open house. And some days people would come through, and he would get to talk and interact with them, and other days no one would come through, but he was there lead generating during the day. And I can tell you, he had frustrations with it, didn't always see the best results. After about 6-8 months, all of a sudden that momentum hit him, and he was scrambling when he didn't have listings to find open houses, because he knew they were that important to his business. So again, guys, it's a repetitive, consistent thing. We may not meet a huge number of great leads those first few open houses, and then the next one, all of a sudden you meet that investor that has 5-6 properties that they want to unload, and boom, there is our gold just there. So a little bit of a time frame of how I like to list houses. And again, sometimes when we talk from this perspective, it's the perfect world, and not everything is perfect. But think of this timeline as, how can I present this to a seller? I used to win a lot of listings because sellers would tell me, hey, you were really prepared. And that would kind of tell me that the other people maybe weren't prepared. And so, have a system around the listing. And Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's the ideal timeline of selling your home. It isn't, hey, I'm going to take your pictures right now with my cell phone. My goal is ultimately right here to list on a Thursday afternoon with showings beginning on a Friday morning. Why is that? Because ideally, I want to give the home Friday, Saturday, Sunday to receive offers, get showings, generate the most interest for my seller possible, and find the strongest buyer for that seller. And with the seller's permission, obviously we're sending them the offers to review, but ideally we're not reviewing offers until Monday morning together to talk about the strengths. And of course, we're letting everyone know that. So we'll back it up. That comes with being on the same page as the seller. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, it may not be in our best interest to list the home tomorrow. And here's why: because if we can create an event around going live on the MLS, we can all of a sudden create so much more excitement and viewings on the first day that we can identify that strong buyer early. So obviously that comes with getting professional photography taken early. We always use professional photography because I'm going to go to my next listing appointment with that professional photography and say, hey, look how great my pictures looked. Have you noticed online how many agents are skipping getting professional photography done? Let me go into that's 101. If someone's not spending money on your photography, they're probably not spending any money marketing your home. And wouldn't you agree, products and items with marketing sell for more money? So of course, during the week, we're creating that marketing, going live Thursday afternoon, just hitting the button to go live. Friday night, maybe we're putting out directional signs, know your local city ordinances, know how strict a certain HOA is. You don't want to show up the next day and all of a sudden you see all your signs in the dumpster. That can certainly happen. Friday morning, we're going to go knock. We're going to go door knock. On my 135, I always had that I wanted to go door knock for 2 hours every single open house that I had. And we're going to talk about some scripts to meet and greet the neighbors with as well. And then obviously Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, when it comes to the open house, I'd really encourage you guys, if it is a new listing, test some things out. Has anyone ever done an evening open house, maybe at around the time where people could be driving home from work? I don't want it to be 3 hours on an evening. Maybe I always did 2 hours max. I started off with 3 hours, and then I did a couple of 2-hour ones, and I noticed I had the same number of people coming through, and they always came through at the beginning and at the end. So I just eliminated that middle hour. You could be very strict and offer the first hour to neighbors only. Sometimes we'd tell the neighbors that, and it was everybody in general anyway. So maybe you do it Saturday and Sunday. How bad do you want to grow your database? How much effort are you putting into marketing that event to drive people to it? So again, there's not always a right or wrong answer. You get to run your business how you like. And then for those that don't have a listing, how engaged are you in your market center? Are you going to team meetings and meeting other agents? Are you active on your Facebook page? Are you networking with the right agents and they know that next time they get a listing, maybe they don't like hosting open houses, but you love hosting open houses, and they reach out to you to say, hey, got a new listing. Would you like to host that open house? And do a great job for them. Give them feedback. They love to get the feedback. Let them know how many people came through and leave the home how you found it. They will really appreciate that, and hopefully you get that opportunity again from them.
Can I add to that?
Mm-hmm. Yep, please do.
Especially for new agents too. It's not often that you're going to find an experienced agent that's going to come to you and say, are you going to set my open house? If you really want to show your value as a new agent coming in, when you see a new listing hit the market, reach out to that agent. Hey, I happen to live in the same neighborhood your listing just hit, or I live in the same town as your new listing just hit. Would it be okay if I shout at you or even host the event for you? But come from contribution. If you reach out to that agent first, I think it's going to be more likely that you're going to be able to set that open house for a more experienced agent that has listings.
Yep, definitely. And what's great is that agent doesn't want, if they don't want to host open houses, they don't want to spend time seeking out another agent. So once you do a great job once, hey, it's a real quick text. Hey, Sam, got another listing next weekend. Do you want to do the open house? I'd absolutely love to. Thanks so much for the opportunity. And then you keep that cycle going, and you're their go-to person.
Exactly.
Don't underestimate that partnership. You don't have to know every agent in the office to get that opportunity. Striking up a slightly deeper relationship with 4 or 5, grow together. You never know, they may have leads that they have some extra opportunities for you to show homes and things like that. So,
or they're building a team for a buyer's agent. There's all kinds of opportunity to be proactive.
No way, they're just testing you a little bit. Mm-hmm. Yep, I love that. And how frequent? That goes to what expectations did you set with the seller? We don't not do anything that we said that we are going to do. And so that's an expectation we set in the listing appointment. When we have homes that aren't quite selling as quick as we'd like, sometimes open houses are there to show the seller that we are doing things. Make sure they know of the other activities you're doing as well. So what are we taking to the open house? When buyers come through, when potential sellers come through, what are they leaving with? So we're going to start with some print material. Obviously the information about the home, whether that be an MLS listing sheet. I would probably create something a little more branded to you, a little prettier, like a feature sheet, a couple of nice pictures. You have your open house flyers inside of Command. A home magazine. So in one of my classes, I took I think it was the listing presentation, I don't think it's the quarterly magazine. I'm pretty sure it was the listing presentation. And I just made like a 7-8 page booklet all about that home. So, the features, of course, in there I added, lender information, vendor information, tools and services that I could offer them, Keller Mortgage information. And the goal being that they take that back with them. And it's just one extra little piece that has my name and my face in it. And when they continue to receive emails, texts, and calls from me, they also remember that the little print material and things that they took with them as well. And so my goal when I was selling was, how can I always just be a little bit different? How can I stand apart just a little bit? And sometimes that home magazine, guys, it didn't really do anything to sell the home. Really, I mean, they're going to make their mind up whether they like the home or not based on a magazine. But what happens if that's a seller that in 6 months' time is selling? And wow, that's so cool that Janelle, went the extra effort and made a little magazine about that house. I want a magazine made about my house when I sell my house. And so now it's up to Janelle to make sure she's following up with that person. Of course, Keller Mortgage information. One of the number one ways I used to convert people that said, yeah, I've kind of got an agent. Great, awesome. What's their name? I may know them. And then based on how long that pause right there is how you know whether they truly have an agent or whether they're just simply brushing you off. But if they've got something signed, guys, they have an agent, that there's some information that they could take with them about maybe saving money, services you offer, partnerships you have that may seal the deal for you. None of this alone is going to convert them. It is going to be your follow-up. So, QR codes with flyers. I never stopped being a QR code fan. Thankfully, in the last year, and really since COVID, and everyone started scanning menus and things like that, QR codes have come back. And so think about, how can I be positioning extra marketing there? A buyer and seller tips for getting your home ready, tips to become the strongest buyer possible. And don't have the mindset of, well, I don't want to give that information away until they start working with me. My viewpoint was always a mindset of abundance, not a mindset of scarcity. For example, my favorite Facebook ad that I used to run before we had Command, when Facebook ads were new, was, would you like a list of open houses for this upcoming weekend? And I used to have to do it old school. I used to generate great leads from that ad. And every Friday I would go in my MLS, I would search for open houses, and I would pick maybe the top 20, 25 in my general area, usually about Gwinnett County. And I would copy and paste the info sheet or the table, and I would delete some columns. I would put it into an email. And of course, in that email, I had information of why they would want to contact me instead of the agent hosting the open house. But I used to send them out to open houses that are in the market that weren't mine and weren't even Keller Williams agents. And if I didn't send that email out on Friday, I would have between 20 and 40 emails in my inbox saying, hey, when are you sending out that open house list for this evening? And I promise you, we can track a lot of profit from that Facebook ad alone. Abundance, we were sending them into other people's open houses, guys, and they weren't following up with those potential buyers and sellers, and we were the ones that were converting them. So again, abundance mindset, sign-in sheets, comparable sales. Of course, I am picking the sales that confirm my list price. If there's a house up the street that is less money, that's the exact same home and is currently active, I'm not going to have that sheet on my kitchen table. I don't think that will be called being dishonest. I'm just, picking what makes my home look the best there. A few additional items, food, drink, candy, the welcome sign on the front door. Don't underestimate something like that. I really noticed that the most awkward part of an open house was the buyer deciding, is there really an open house behind this door? Do I come in? Do I wait for the person to open the door for me? So we used to have a sign on there, welcome to our open house. Please come on in. Because at the end of the day, the seller really didn't want us leaving their front door open the whole day. And as a side note, just know, video recordings, we're always acting at our open houses if we're being watched and recorded. There's a good chance that we may be. Again, more promotional materials, those directional signs, balloons, and pinwheels to draw some attention. We flipped from balloons to pinwheels. It's a kind of funny story. I won't tell it, but someone got really mad at us one time for having balloons in an open house. And after that, we actually switched to pinwheels, but we didn't switch to pinwheels because of that person. We switched because we were tired of going to the dollar store every open house to buy balloons. And so just little spinny wheels air fresheners, things to freshen up the home just a little. So so let's kind of talk about the different levels of open house that we can have. Many of you guys have probably seen a graphic like this, kind of the talk of a 7th level open house. And so how much effort do we want to put into this open house is kind of the question. Do I want to just show up and sit on the sofa and watch the football game and hope no one comes in? Because if that's the case, let's have somebody else do the open house. Or do I truly want to have the mindset of I'm doing this for my seller and I got that opportunity to generate some business for myself? So we're going to kind of just walk through what a few different levels could be. So in the beginning, we're putting out some signs. I mean, 5 signs probably gets us to the neighborhood entrance. We're hosting, we're putting that open house on the MLS. If you guys are hosting an open house for another agent, that's probably my best advice. Remind them to put it in the MLS. If on, you agree on Tuesday and, Thursday evening, you're noticing that, all of the third-party sites don't have an open house listed yet, send a little friendly reminder to the agent. Hey, when you get a second, don't forget to list the open house in the MLS. I would love to get as many people through this home as possible for your seller. You guys have a sign-in sheet ready. I always used to, on my sign-in sheet, have a little ghost, a ghost visitor as my first visitor. No one likes to be the first person to put their name and information on a piece of paper. So, like my in-law would come through real quick and give his information. And then most people were very natural, just giving their information. Hey, welcome so much to this beautiful home. If you don't mind, the seller just wants to make sure I do keep track of everyone that comes through. If you don't mind signing in, I got some great information for you about this home and this neighborhood there. Maybe we go electronic with that. Maybe we have a landing page set up. And at the top of the landing page is that capture form when they enter their info, and then they're in our database as soon as they hit submit. And again, talk to people. We talk about body language, we talk about verbal and non-verbal body language. It's one of those where we've really got to practice, and it feels kind of awkward doing this, but at home, practice someone walking in the front door and how you're going to greet them, because we don't want to rush that front door and confront them and ask and hit them with a million qualifying questions right away. But we also don't want to be sitting on the sofa watching the game saying, hey, enjoy the house, let me know if you have any questions, because then we're not a serious agent, and they want a serious agent to represent them. So again, it feels awkward talking to yourself and talking in the mirror, but practice welcoming them in from the front door, because if you're friendly, if you're positive and you've got some energy and just a couple of one-line greetings, they're going to be so much more attracted to you versus how can I get through this home as quick as possible and leave, because Sam kind of intimidated me then when he rushed me at the house. And honestly, I'm a calm person, and I didn't really want to get intimidated by Sam there. And so just kind of practice that. Sounds kind of funny. Again, so 2.0. Everything we did in the first place, but we're previewing the property in advance. Why? Because we want to be able to speak knowledgeably about this. And it's perfectly okay if someone comes through our open house and asks us a question. We say, you know what, that's a great question. Let me find out from the owner and let me get right back to you on that. And that's an example of something that would be in the MLS, a very specific question. Hey, how much are your utility bills here in this house? We don't have that answer right away, but we can certainly get back to them. We're putting out more signs. Maybe we're going to, to an intersection, a main intersection. Go onto Google Maps and find the home and zoom out a little bit and print off that view, because as we go through these open house steps and as you add some more signs, when you get outside the neighborhood with your signs, sometimes you can forget where you put those open house signs. And at the end of the day, it's money. We don't want to lose money. Again, we're bringing snacks and drinks on this one. We're printing other comparable homes that make our home look good. And we've practiced a few scripts and questions as well. And we're going to end with some scripts today. So the 3.0, we know about the area. Whenever I used to go on to listing appointments, kind of the hour before, I would always try and hit a couple of the comparable homes, the other homes that were active on the market, so I could speak more knowledgeably about those specific homes to the seller, and the sellers would think, oh my goodness, you really know the market. When the truth is, I just went through them. I kind of sort of knew them, but we don't know every home on the market. I could speak very specifically and knowledgeably about a couple of our closest competing homes, and added some value to them, that's for sure. Upgrade your signs to branded signs, not just your Home Depot with a little arrow there. Obviously, make sure you are compliant with your board. But I saw some really cool signs one time from someone. I really wanted to buy them, and I don't think my wife would let me, because we used to lose open house signs all the time. But they were the big restaurant fold-out signs, and he had jokes on them. And some of them would say, almost there, keep going, cookies are waiting for you. Just tiny little things that, a couple of them seemed a little silly, but sometimes people do appreciate that. But the branding on it's definitely important. And again, putting an open house, putting a rider. Do you have a few sign riders made? Open house, Saturday 11 to 1, open house Saturday 2 to 4. Have a few made so that you can have the open house the time that you want. That way you don't really need to take black marker pen and scribble out the 11 to 1 and type it and put in 2 to 4, or have some white duct tape if you need to go the extra little bit. Again, it talked about in the map right here, nicer food and drink. Right now, obviously with COVID, we're probably not having the buffets and, cheese and crackers and things like that. So keep them all relative there. And where else are we posting about this open house? So right here, we're talking about free options, Craigslist. Some people do shy away from Craigslist. I don't have a slide in here, but make sure you guys are taking your safety at open houses very seriously. That means, people knowing where you are and what time you're supposed to be coming home, having someone check in on you. Maybe you have a partner or a lender that sits the open house with you. If we're doing those things, go that extra mile, guys, so you can generate some visitors. We don't want to have just shown up, put no effort in, and the lender shows up too, and then we have one person come through because we didn't do anything. So again, take your safety very seriously. Yard sale groups, make sure we know the rules of those groups. But you'd be surprised the number of people that start off their home search, just looking, going through open houses because they're just looking. They're in the information gathering stage, as that would put. Sam said, if you're uncomfortable, lock the door and one client at a time. We always say things like, you welcome the client to walk up the stairs before you so that you're behind them and not in front of them. Again, check with your office on their safety policies for sure. So in 4.0, again, we're upping our signs. We're switching to maybe some electronic sign-ins. We've got some plans set up so that when they come in, right from our phone, right from our tablet, we can send them a little bit of information. We've circle prospected before the open house. So circle prospecting, we're going to drop a pin on the location. Maybe we're going into Cole Realty, other resources there, and we're pulling phone numbers out, and we're reaching out to those close by to say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I'm hosting an open house on your street this week, 123 Main Street. So if you notice some extra traffic coming through the neighborhood, no need to be alarmed. We're hosting an open house. And again, we'll go through some scripts in just a little while, but let's personally invite them. Hey, the first 30 minutes is reserved for the neighbors. Come through the home, see what homes are selling for in your neighborhood, compare your home to this one, or just get some ideas on upgrades and renovations that your neighbors have made. We're all nosy neighbors at the end of the day, guys, myself included. And if someone personally reaches out to me for an open house, I'm going through it. I'm the nosiest neighbor that you'll ever meet. I'm building a house right now, and a lot of people around me are, and I go in their houses all the time to see what they're doing. And I'm pretty sure they come in my house too to check it out. And so we are all nosy neighbors. We want to know what everyone else has going on. Ask the seller if they can post it in their neighborhood Facebook page. Most fair-sized neighborhoods have kind of an internal page. You can't get in it, but your seller can. And then guess what? After the deal closes and you guys have had a great relationship, hey, would you mind leaving me a review in your neighborhood page as well. When a neighbor refers or recommends another neighbor, I see it, my parents are in a large neighborhood, I'm in that group. If someone says, hey, I had an amazing experience with this real estate agent, I promise you that agent gets another piece of business too. It happened just a couple of weeks ago. Personally knew that agent, comments, and I asked her, did you convert anyone there? Yeah, I've got a listing agreement from it alone. And so, but they wouldn't ever make that post if we don't ask them to make that post. And so, one of the big things I took away from Meg Camp was the promise. And we've heard the promise on and off, but that was probably the most consistent that I have heard the promise, people's version of the promise. And it all goes back to that first ever meeting, with the seller, you making your promise, and in return asking them if they will have you referrals, recommendations. And again, this is a little reminder of that. Hey, when we first spoke, we mentioned that we would both be a team together in promoting and marketing your home. And so if you could post in your internal Facebook group that we have an open house coming up this weekend, you never know whether your neighbors know someone that's looking to move to the area and to the neighborhood. So 5.0, we're really going out there with signs right now. When we're getting closer and closer up the levels, guys, we've got other people involved here with us. It's not always just us doing it. I know of teams that spend the week planning and preparing and lead generating, all for an open house event. Why? Going back to one of those first slides, guys, of the targeted circle. Our goal is to get to those Mets. And if someone comes through my open house, I've met them, right? I'm going to have some conversations with them. We've got to go a little bit deeper than that. But at the end of the day, they can't avoid me like a Facebook lead can. They can't reject my calls. If they're not willing to sign in, I'm so sorry, but the seller did ask that no one be allowed to come through the home that isn't willing to sign in. And I've got to respect their wishes. I've never had someone give me issue. If they've got an issue with it, guys, they just give you fake information, and so be it. We've ran some Facebook ads for it. Yeah, exactly. You use COVID contact tracing. That's probably the best excuse there is out there. We're all taking that seriously, so that's great. The Facebook ads, be real specific. Right now, when it comes to Facebook ads, consumers are starting to wonder, well, is that home even active anymore? We're seeing them go so fast. So make sure in that ad we're talking about, it is an active home. Here's your opportunity. Here is your time frame. Here's what you're going to receive coming through the home. And hey, guess what? Everybody that comes through my open house gets a free gift, gets a free goodie bag. And there's nothing that great in my goodie bag. It's branded materials, some cookies, a water, some chips, and there's a buyer guide in it that's going to help you be a stronger, better buyer if you actually read it and take it seriously. That's a pretty good gift, in my opinion. There's some extra things, those big feather signs. We see them at Mega Camp all the time where we wave them. We're trying to find our group, and it's a branded. Maybe it just says Keller Williams Open House. Maybe it says your name on it. They're not crazy expensive. And if I set a goal of hosting 6 open houses a month, I can, once I've had a sale or two, I can probably afford to expand my items that I have to promote that open house. Get some vendors involved, food trucks, ice cream cones, Kona ice, a grill. Have someone there that's ready to give lending advice. My ad probably wouldn't say, hey, there's a lender that's there ready to approve you. Maybe it's more from the angle of, hey, there is a lender there ready to give you advice on how to qualify for a better interest rate. I'm pretty interested in hearing about that, especially if I know I don't have a great credit score to get the best interest rate. And so again, don't scare them away. Now, do you have some other listings going on in the neighborhood? Are there other listing agents that we can reach out to say, hey, we're hosting an open house at this time and date. Do you have any interest in hosting an open house at the same time as me? Because again, that's that abundance mindset. Why do car lots post up right next to each other? Surely, people are going to go buy a car there and not come and buy here. Whereas it's the number of car lots being there alone attracts people to come to it. And then they have multiple options. And so seeing that there's multiple open houses in one neighborhood at a time, you may get some of those warm buyers that are a few months out that just, hey, listen, kill two birds with one stone and go check out these 2 open houses there. And again, know who's in your office when it comes to door knocking. Don't underestimate the power of door knocking. I would honestly move this lower down from 5.0. There's things on a 5.0, 6.0 that I wouldn't do before door knocking. Main reason being that there's no expense involved in door knocking, and a lot of us are looking to lead with revenue and put the time and the effort in versus marketing dollars right this second, and door knocking is a great way of doing that. But again, I'd encourage you guys, have the system for after door knocking, because if we just door knock and I meet a really nice seller, if I don't do things after that fact, they're going to forget about me, because another agent's going to come along and knock, but the chances are that other agent will knock and then do nothing after it. So when it comes to scripts, we're going to have scripts for meeting and inviting the neighbors. We're going to want to have scripts for during the open house, and then we're going to want to have scripts and follow-up information for the months after the open house. Now, we do have a couple of week window after that open house to really get top of mind with that potential buyer and seller. After that, they are going to go meet more agents too. We're not going to stop following up, but those first couple of weeks for me was always a little more intense follow-up, so they could really remember who I was and what home they met me at. So, we're out there, door knocking, and hey, Mr. and Miss Seller, I think we said this one earlier. I just wanted to let you know I'm hosting an open house right up the street Saturday, 2 to 4. Just in case you see any extra traffic. No reason to be alarmed. Have you seen the home for sale? What do you think of it? Great home, isn't it? Out of curiosity, how long have you guys lived here for? Oh, that's awesome. So tell me, what's something that you love about this neighborhood that I could tell all the other buyers that come through to let them know how great the neighborhood it is? Why are we saying little things like that? Well, we're complimenting the seller on the neighborhood. If I walk up to a seller and say, hey, this neighborhood, it doesn't look very good. Is there anything good about this neighborhood that I can tell a buyer? Well, they're not going to like me, are they? So why would they ever want to do business with me? I'm complimenting, hey, this is a beautiful neighborhood. Tell me something that I don't already know that goes on inside this neighborhood that would make someone want to live here. And Mr. Seller, that was a great opportunity to pick your neighbor. Do you know of anyone looking to move to the area that I could send the information about this home to and maybe schedule a private tour for them? Awesome. Would you be interested in getting an update once we do put the home under contract and sell, so that you can find out first how much homes are really selling for in this neighborhood? Awesome. So you can see it doesn't have to be a perfect script. Those might not be the best scripts you've ever heard, but if I go out 5-6 times a month, we can do 5-6 open houses a week if we want to. That is a lot though. 5-6 a month, and I keep doing that, I'm going to have people that naturally say, I do have a cousin that's moving here. You know what? There is that neighbor across the street. Their kids are trying to, move out of the basement, and they really still want to be close to mom and dad. Now's a great opportunity for that. One thing I always used to love to do, go knock on the door when you're putting your directional signs out and say, hey, Mr. Seller, I've got an open house going on up the street, and I'd really want to do a great job getting as many people there as possible to help the seller sell the home. I've got a few directional signs. Would you mind if I just put one right at the end of your yard, directing people? I promise it won't hurt your grass, and I'll come get it right afterwards. And the seller's thinking, yeah, sure. What? You didn't really need to ask that. Hey, awesome. I appreciate that so much. And then you go into a few of your scripts. Hey, how long you lived here for? And then afterwards, you can either knock again and thank him, or at least we're sending him a thank you card. Hey, Mr. Seller, thanks so much for allowing me to put my sign in your yard. And if you ever have any real estate needs or questions, I'm here for you. Don't underestimate the power of thank you cards. It was probably one of the things I did consistently. One thing I used to do that I had to stop, for example, was I used to mail a thank you card before I went on a listing appointment, so they could get there right away. And then one day I had someone cancel an appointment with me, and they still got a thank you card from me. So I had to rethink that system a little bit, right? But I wanted to get it there as soon as possible, and I didn't want to physically put it in their mailbox. So we had to kind of think through that. There's some people that will save that thank you card and remember how polite you were because you asked to put a little sign in the end of their yard, and think, well, that's really cool that Sam asked me that. I'm going to use him when I'm there. Now they're going to forget Sam from that one interaction probably, but if Sam follows up and he keeps communicating with them, and maybe, he checks in with them every now and again. They'll remember that, and they'll remember that thank you card together, and they will definitely compliment each other. So, a few scripts for when people are walking in your open house. And a couple of these came from one of the Outfront articles. Outfront, what does the website say? Outfront.kw.com, isn't it?
Yep, that's exactly it.
Yep. So, it's one of our magazines. It has, some great tips inside of there. Always check out those articles. But hey, welcome to the open house. And we've already had a couple of, sentences with them. But, people come into open houses, looking for a new home or trying to figure out the value of their home. Which one of you guys? What brings you guys in here today? Do you guys live nearby? Awesome. How long have you lived there for? If you were looking to sell, when do you think that would be? If you guys were looking to move, is this the area you guys are looking to move to? Awesome. So would you be interested in hearing from me as soon as new homes in this area come on the market? Again, half of the time we're adding value to them, and then half of the time we're asking questions to figure out, what is their motivation? Do they have an agent? Don't they have an agent? Because if they tell me they do, but then they still want to be receiving properties from me when they hit the market, I'm going to dig a little deep to find out, have they signed a relationship with this agent yet or not? Because that's an important question to ask. One thing I always love to ask people, and this kind of applies to online leads too, is, have you noticed how quickly homes online are selling right this second? And the truth is, if someone's not noticing that right now in this market, there's a chance they may not be a real buyer. I guarantee buyers are noticing that right now, but maybe they're not. Maybe they don't use technology that much, and they're looking for you and say, homes are selling quickly, but the great news is that the ready and the prepared buyers are the ones that are winning homes right now. And Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, my job is to position you to be in the best position possible to win the home of your dreams. So why don't we set up a meeting for Tuesday evening, and I can walk you through exactly what I do to put you in the best position possible to win those competitive homes.
Stuart, I love that question too, because depending on the answer, that can be a really clear indicator on whether or not they're represented.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. How long have you guys been looking online for homes for? If someone says, a couple of weeks, awesome. Someone says to me, 7 years. Whoa, now I'm going to qualify them a little bit more because, are they hard to please? Are they looking for something super specific? Maybe they're looking for a $50 million home. Who knows? Again, little qualifying questions. We don't always have to have an answer or a second, third level question for them, but we kind of memorize them. Market's moving quickly. Have you talked to anyone about what it takes to be successful in this market? And again, be very careful of the message that we're putting out there, guys. I see Facebook posts all the time where people are saying, it's a crazy real estate market. Man, real estate's crazy. Well, are we scaring anybody away when we're telling them it's a crazy market? Or are we telling them, hey, it is such a unique market that who you work with matters more now than ever. And here's some of the things I'm doing to help buyers navigate this competitive real estate market. No one wants to deal with crazy, but I'm okay dealing with competitive because I'm a competitive person. I think I can win. And so be very careful of the messaging you guys are putting out there. Follow-up conversations, we're following up right away. Hey, thanks so much for coming through that home. It really is beautiful. What were a couple things you guys loved about it? Over the next couple of weeks, going to be sending you some great information that will help your home search. It will help increase your buying power. Does that sound good? Again, just, it's real simple things. So, from following up, we have things that, talking about the importance of being a prepared and strong buyer and having our scripts settled of why getting approved by a lender is more important now than ever. Setting a budget and us respecting it, talking about, have you seen that budget broken down into a monthly payment, or were you just given a purchase price as your budget? You're just given a purchase price. Well, let's make sure that we see that number as a monthly payment, because I don't want you spending more money than you're comfortable spending. And make sure you guys are partnered with a lender that will have them that budget, because nothing's worse than putting them under contract for $400 and then them calling you saying, Sam, I can't afford $2,500 a month. I need to be at $1,800 a month. And all of a sudden, that's a very different looking home than that $400,000 home we just showed them, and we're in an uphill battle just there. Help them narrow down their search area. help them narrow down their time frame. And again, how can we kind of tee them up to answer real basic questions where our answer is we need to have a buyer consult together. And again, it goes back to talking about your guys, your job, your importance. And so, so what comes after the open house? After the open house, it is all follow up, follow up, follow up. And I did say that we weren't going to jump into command, but I did semi lie there, which I apologize about. We are a few minutes early, and I just want to show you guys some different ways that you can increase that follow-up. I really can't tell you guys how many times I've hosted open houses and that sign-in sheet disappeared, and that sign-in sheet, you know, got wet and crumpled up, and I couldn't read everything on it. And those were potential dollars that I left sitting on my car seat that I could have converted to make money on. And another angle to kind of look at it was a way that my coach once approached me many, many years ago when I told her that, you know, I just prefer talking to random people versus the people I know. And, you know, there's some people out there that would much prefer to lead generate to strangers than their own database. And the coach once said to me, well, do your friends ever, you know, call you and have issues in their transactions and things like that? And I said, yeah. She said, well, that's your fault. So, my fault? That's not my fault. She said, it is your fault. You could have been, you know, communicating with them and marketing to them, and you could have been helping them buy that home, and you wouldn't have let that happen to them. And so it really is your fault. I said, oh, wow, that's an interesting way of looking at it. So maybe, you know, I don't want that happening to my friends. So maybe I am going to prospect to them a little harder. So as you guys are doing follow-up after open house, just think, I don't want that person to have a bad home buying experience. I want them to have the best experience possible. And I believe I can help them achieve that. And so I'm not pestering them and I'm not bothering them. I am trying to make sure that they have a successful real estate transaction. When we kind of look at it that way versus, well, I don't want to be bothering that person, kind of changes our mindset a little bit. I'm still very adamant it wasn't my fault that they had those experiences, but my coach is very adamant that it was my fault. So I still laugh about that interaction. So let's spend 3 minutes in the Smart Plan library. And if you guys haven't been in the Smart Plan library yet, I would really encourage you guys to write down and brainstorm, what could I possibly want and need a follow-up campaign for? You know, your sphere of influence, your core advocates, your family members, people that you met at the grocery store, open houses, Facebook leads. We have different campaigns for all of those things. And once we've brainstormed them, we will go from Smart Plans into the library. And now we're going to look for smart plans that fit the criteria that we're looking for. And we're going to borrow and rip off and duplicate stuff that people have already done if you don't want to create it yourself. Sometimes I'll read a smart plan and there's 10 emails in it. I think, yeah, 3 of them are great, 7 of them not as great, but I'm going to go ahead and borrow those 3 and pull another 3 from another one. And before you know it, I've just got 6 great emails. So you can have under smart plan name or description, you could come right here and type in open house. And here are all the open houses that people have published. Now we can come into the filter and choose, you know, number of touches, you know, if we're looking for slightly longer ones there. I will just make sure that when you guys, so to bring one in, you'll add the smart plan and then you'll download it, okay? We'll walk through that in just a second. Make sure you do edit and read your smart plans, because you don't want to send out a smart plan that has my name and phone number on it. And so just be careful of that. I have an open house one. If you go from author name and you type in my name just here, I have an open house one in here. It's actually a part 1 and part 2. For some reason I make very long smart plans, and I also love HTML smart plans, and you can only put 5 HTML images in one smart plan. But what you can do is you can, at the end of one smart plan, you can tell it to start the next smart plan. And so if you guys come in and search my name, you type in my name and open house follow-up part 1, if you hit add smart plan, it's actually going to tell you that in order to download this smart plan, you actually need to download these 2 things first. So you will confirm and download it, and then you will download it again. And what's really neat You only need to add them to part 1 because the smart plan for part 2 gets started. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. And then we'll open it up to questions. So right here, this is my open house part 1. And I will click on edit. And again, this isn't quite a smart plan class. So if you have questions, I know Sam will be very happy to meet with you, or we'll do them at the end. But right here is what I'm talking about. Just make sure that they don't have any agent branding anywhere. If we go to the last step in this open house or in this smart plan is to launch an additional smart plan. So because there are a couple of limitations on either length or number of graphics I can get in there, I'm going to run one smart plan. So I build one smart plan, and then I build a second smart plan. And then I go back to the first smart plan. I just tell it, hey, as your last step, go ahead and start that next smart plan that I just created for you. And now I believe it's about a 6-month follow-up inside there with multiple graphics, multiple touches. So you guys are free to pull that in and steal a couple of ideas from me. There are a couple of graphics in there that may have Atlanta Partners logos on them. So again, I believe one of them is a Keller Mortgage one. You just go into your portal.kellermortgage and download your own copy of it. But go check out all the gold that's in that smart plan library. So many people have shared stuff. And what's cool is you may not like one thing, but you may love another thing that fits your personality and your communication type. And it kind of fits into your business there.
As Janelle mentioned, to kind of start the class, one of her most successful open houses was because of the follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is a really great way to make sure that you're automating that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you still want to make phone calls, but this is a great way to make sure that you're at least getting something out to those people that come here.
Yeah. Do I have a tag trigger attached to my open house smart plan so that every time after my open house and I type in that sheet and I tag them with open house, it automatically launches my open house smart plan for the next 6 months. And I'm not going to set it and forget it, because some of those tasks are, call them, check in on them, do this one unique thing, invite them to your next open house. And so again, that goes back to that 135, targeting who we want to do business with. And one of the reasons why I was able to put more effort into my open houses was because I only had 3 marketing efforts I was doing at the time: sphere of influence, Facebook leads, and open houses. And I stuck with them for a while. If you guys are trying to do 10 different things right this second and you're bouncing around from one to another, it's really easy to lose track of where I am with different people in open houses. And it's really easy to say, well, that didn't work. That didn't work. When the truth was, I only gave it 30 days. And we all know that everything we do today shows up in about 90 to 120 days or so later. And so open houses are one of those. Ask them, hey, you in the information gathering stage right now? Little things like that. So do we have any questions on anything we went through today? I'm going to put that drive link back in again.
I see some folks coming off of mute. Do you have questions?
I have one.
Yes.
I'm not too familiar with smart plans, but one of the things I'm experiencing when I host open houses for others, a lot of times I only get an email address. So, I follow up with the email. So would the smart plan help with just kind of setting things in different times? I guess like every 2 weeks or every week following up. And how long do you keep someone on a smart plan that doesn't respond back?
So, so we always have those first couple of weeks where we're more intense with our follow-up. If we realize that it's a wrong phone number, I'm still going to continue them on that open house plan, but I'm also going to start them on another smart plan that is for no phone number or for wrong phone number. And it isn't a super, it's not an email a day, but it's just some staggered out information for them and saying, hey, we really need to connect. I know we don't have your number yet, but here are some very important reasons on why we would want to connect. There's some things we could do in the open house and say, hey, Miss Buyer, I've got an amazing buyer packet for you. Can I go ahead and get your phone number so I can send it to you? And they have the option right then and there and say, hey, I don't really want to give you my phone number. or I can't really give you a fake phone number then, because like I'm about to send it to them and text it to them, and if it doesn't come through on their phone, that's a little awkward. It's like, oh man, you gave me a wrong phone number, huh? And you can have a few jokes about it there. Again, filling out that first one and having, you know, a phone number there does make people a little more comfortable, willing to give them. Maybe you have a little sign right next to the sign-in sheet just saying, hey, here's what you will receive over the next week or two from me. And the items that you're listing, you know, are items of value that they maybe can't find on their own or on other websites. Anything to add to that, Sam?
Well, you know, right now it's a really, really good time to play into this realm of being contactless. So Stuart, you know, shows an example of, you know, having a QR code. You could have someone scan the QR code that leads to a landing page to where people are filling out their contact information. So like you're getting a lead into command. And then from there, you can text them, hey, here's your digital flyer as you walk around the house. But you can have them text it to you, or like you can have them scan the QR code and then text them the flyer, as Stuart's saying. You can do that right there in person. Yeah, I would probably just kind of question, how am I taking in the information to guarantee that I get a cell phone number every time? Because that's going to be the most important thing that you can capture.
Okay, so you said with the QR code, there's some way to link it to command where it goes straight into our database?
Yeah, so essentially, you can create a landing page inside of
Mhm.
consumer, and you can create that to where it's just an open house sign-in form. It would be a text box and then just the contact form. And you would have them fill that out just like they would fill out like a pen and paper one in person. And then you'll get a notification on your phone that you got a new lead. So every time
Okay.
somebody fills out a contact form on your website, you get notified. I would use that in like live in person to
Mhm.
share, hey, I got your information. Now I'm going to text you the flyer for today's open house, the property that we have here today. Like, here's my one sheet that I'm now going to text to you.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I was still hosting open houses, I would be flipping from, you know, paper to digital. For that reason, there's still some things I want them to walk out with, but then there's a few unique things I'm going to hold back for texting to them right away and getting that phone number. But also just be okay knowing that some people are just going to give you a fake phone number.
Yes.
If that makes sense. So our goal is to get to lower that percentage, but it's okay if some people give me a fake phone number.
And I would think just out of habit, if I'm pulling out my phone to scan something, I'm probably just going to share that number. Like, I think I'm probably going to lose that mindset of filling out a form to where when I pull out my phone and I scan something, it's a little bit more natural, and I'm just going to follow the path.
Why wouldn't someone give me their phone number? They go on in public McDonald's Wi-Fi and log into their bank account. So why wouldn't they give me a phone number?
Hey, speaking of which, that's my class for October 4th, Stu. Thanks for the tee up. Cybersecurity with Evan Ransom.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if they're really that worried about, you know, their phone number being out there, they're doing a lot worse that they just aren't thinking about. So
yeah. By the way, if your marketers want to join us for that, let me know.
Cool.
We're doing a cybersecurity class October 4th.
Yeah, that sounds good. So again, you know, guys, I'll just encourage you guys, think of an open house as an event. You know, how can I generate excitement about this, and then think of it as a follow-up campaign afterwards? Because, you know, we do a lot with first impressions, and first impressions are huge in open houses or just in general. But again, the gold is in the follow-up. And if we convert someone right then and there in that open house, then, you know, those are just bonus points at the end of the day. And I have converted people right then and there in open houses and gone and done a listing appointment afterwards. But I also used to host 5-6 open houses a month for many years in a row to then get a few of those opportunities. And I've had open houses where I've sat there and not had great successes, but everything averages out in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what I've taken away is really the fundamental thesis here is have a plan, have a system. Stuart gave you a great one today.
Yeah.
But have a plan.
Very helpful.
No, thank you. I do appreciate that. So like I said, inside of here, there's, you know, a few flyer examples. I believe you guys are looking at the drive, you know, a little bit of an open house plan, you know, a kid's coloring book that you could give people that come through with the kids. Guys, that was pulled straight out of command. Just there, you know, there's a bunch more questions right there. inside of different Google Docs. And again, just some examples of 7th level. You don't have to do everything, but build your system and then just work on improving it that 1% every time.
I think what you said about just doing 3 things at a time is really helpful instead of trying to do everything at once. It made me think, I showed a buyer a house last week that I met at an open house last summer. And all I really did with them, I'm new, I'm still learning, was just emails and a text here and there. And they moved here and they rented a property and told me they'd be in touch when they were ready to buy. And I thought that was it. But then they called 2 weeks ago and said they were ready. But all I did was emails and a few texts every now and then and sent market stats and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
and you converted people. Yep. So this is my favorite picture right here in the whole of real estate, just here, because this is so true when it comes to real estate. Yeah. You never know what's going to generate your business. You never know what's going to lose your business. And you never know when the next piece of business is right around the corner. And again, it's consistency and time over time. If we do 3 open houses and say I didn't convert anyone, those don't work. But within each open house, I had many activities, but I had 3 main focuses, 3 main objectives.
Thank you, Stuart. I appreciate
Very
you,
cool.
buddy.
No problem. Always great seeing you. I appreciate all of you guys having me here today. I'm sure I will get to see you all soon, and maybe on a different topic on another day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe in person one day.
thank you.
Yep.
Thanks,
I
Stuart.
appreciate you all being here. Thanks, Sam.